So I would have this problem on my bike where after riding on the freeway for a little bit, the engine would cut out. I would be going down the freeway, it didn't really matter what speed, and after about 10 to 30 minutes, my bike would cut out and I would, get stuck on the side of the road. I would let it cool down for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then I would get back on and it would be fine, and I'd be able to ride it like nothing happened. But right when it happened, it would make a noise like a really lean noise, like if you were running it with no gas, which is weird because it would happen full tank or whatever. So my goal with this ride that I'm about to show you is I just wanted to repeat the symptom. My plan was to get on the side of the road when it did die out on me and check the spark, check everything, because I had a bunch of theories, and I forgot my tools, so that didn't really work out. But I brought the thermometer so I could see how hot it was getting, and if it was getting hot. I was reading around 270. And yeah, it would happen randomly. Sometimes it would happen after 30 minutes of riding. Sometimes it would happen after 10. I'd be going 90 miles an hour. I'd be going 60 miles an hour. It didn't really matter. It was freer riding only though. Around city, it was fine. Stop and go was fine. I don't know why I was being silly when I was diagnosing this problem. I wasn't really thinking that hard about it. I don't know why. Like, usually when I have a problem, I think about it. And, like, I really think about it, and I give it even, like, an ounce of thought. But for this, I don't know why. I just wasn't thinking. Like, I think it was because it's, like, in my mind, I wasn't like, okay, I want to fix this problem. In my mind, I was like, okay, I want my bike to run. So I wasn't thinking about fixing it. I was just thinking about it running. I think that's why, I don't know, it was stupid of me. If it doesn't want to start while it's hot, that's a symptom of being rich. And I guess everything pointed to being rich, right? The plugs were dark. My AFRs were turned out very far. Oh, they were turned out one turn. Factory is 2.5. I had them at 3.5 because factory is lean, like I said, and I have the aftermarket exhaust. But when I would pull over and I would try to crank it over, like when the bike dies on me on the freeway and I try to crank it over, nothing, like absolutely nothing on without any choke. It's like I'm just, the plugs could be out. It would be the same result, I pull in the choke and it starts up and it like revs up real high, like I have the choke pulled another way. But then it dies out as soon as I let go of the choke. But that means that it's not running rich, right? If it's dying out and I add more fuel, and if it's dying out and I richen the mixture by pulling in the choke, that means that it's not running rich. The way home from that trip, because I didn't really document that because I was like just trying to make it home. So the bike rode really bad the entire way home. Usually you let it cool down, and usually I let it cool down and it rides like brand new after I let it cool down. This time though, I let it cool down for about an hour, and then I made it a couple miles down the freeway and it died out on me again. So now I pushed it uphill to a gas station, and I sat there for like 2 hours. And then I rode it home. I didn't touch the freeway once, but still the whole way home it didn't want to idle. I had to mess with it to keep it idling. It was bogging really bad. And it was cold, bro. It was so cold. But yeah, the bike did really bad, which was really weird. Like it's never really done that bad before. The headlight, I was riding down the first time. So I sat there in Alpine for about an hour, and then I rode home. And that time on the freeway, the headlight like came unplugged, like it rattled loose. So when I was reaching around, like one hand on the throttle, reaching around trying to plug it back in while I was riding down the freeway. And then I got like rubber bands and like not zip ties, but like twist ties, rubber bands and twist ties, and I strapped it together, and it didn't come off for the rest of the ride. But it was I made it home. It didn't do well that whole way home, and never woke back up. And it was cold. Definitely below 60. And like it was probably closer to like 40 up in the mountains, and it got more around 50 to 60 closer to, you know, the beach. My fuel pump is leaking a little bit, so I replaced that, and I guess I'm gonna see if that caused the problem. But recently the bike's been running very, very bad. Like I crank it over and I have the choke pulled all the way, and it will still only get to like 2. Usually you pull the choke all the way, it like revs up to like 6. I pull the choke all the way, it like just barely gets to 2 and stays there. Fully choked, you know? So before I ride it around, I guess I might see if it starts, but I'm not feeling too confident that it will. Alright, I got something to say here. I threw the fuel pump in that XJ, as you saw, and afterwards it rode great. Like it needed a little bit of choke on a cold start. Actually it didn't. It started with no choke. On the cold start it needed choke, but like cold start, choke, it ran for like 30 seconds. I turned it off. 30 minutes later I started it again. No choke needed. It ran good though. There was no problems idling. The choke revved up like it should. Like it was behaving like there was no issues. So that is weird, but if it fixed it, it fixed it. I mean, it makes sense, right? You run the bike with a leaking fuel pump. Eventually, I feel like it would have to start sucking in air instead of leaking fuel. And then your bowls get full of air instead of fuel, and then lean mixture. I don't know. It still is weird though that it would resolve itself after resting for an hour. But you know, I don't know. I'm still gonna look into it. I haven't taken it on the freeway yet. I'm gonna take it on the freeway, but my trip, my one little trip, which was a long time, a lot of hours, and I did a lot of parking lot work where I was, you know, trying to get knee down at like 15 miles an hour. So I was going slow for a decent bit of time there, and there was no problems. So I'm not too worried about it getting hot. I don't know. I mean, I'm still gonna figure it out. Gonna go on another ride, but it's looking good. So I took my bike to Cycle Gear, which is, I'd say, about a 20-minute drive from my house, and then 20 minutes back. And normally, like I said, it would be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes my bike would cut out on me. This time it didn't. I think I recorded this yesterday, but the camera turned off, so I didn't get any of it. But yeah, this time it did great. The only thing is, when I get off the freeway, when I get off any high-speed riding, like 60 and up, it'll idle at 2 grands instead of at 1.5, but that's doesn't seem game-changing to me, and it'll idle back down after a little bit.
yeah, it definitely would have cut out on me before, but I made it to cycle gear. I started it at night, you know, in about 40-degree weather, and I needed some choke, but it did great too. Usually it's like, sometimes it's so stubborn at night that I can't even make it down the road. This time it did fine. I mean, I can start it, if it's been sitting in the sun for a little bit, I can start it with no choke. It's a bit harder and I gotta mess with the throttle more, but I can start it with no choke. I'm planning on putting an oil cooler on soon because why not? You know, I'm gonna get a little thermostat that opens up at around 175 and puts my oil through the cooler. Let the fins cool it down with some airflow. I need some new forks, so what I'm planning on doing is taking the forks off my Honda Hawk and putting them on my XJ if the Hawk forks aren't blown. And then I'll put the CB650 Nighthawk forks on the Hawk. That's kind of my plan for right now. I also have a pair of Gixxer 1000 forks that I want to throw on something that's not a Gixxer 1000 because that's boring. And the Hawk seems like it might be a perfect candidate because I'm not going to want to replace any Honda shocks. Like, I'm not going to want to replace my 700 Nighthawk because that has all the Honda technology. It's got dual front caliper, which so does the Gixxer, but it's got dual front caliper. It's got anti-dive. They're air shocks. Like, they're nice shocks, right? Same with the Sabre. And I'm not going to put Gixxer forks on a Harley. Although I would. That would be cool to see those Gixxer forks on a Harley if I didn't already want to put a reverse springer on that Harley. So that leaves me with two options. Either the XJ, because those forks are blown and very simple, single caliper, no technology, or the Hawk, because those forks are extremely simple, single caliper.
You can see right now it's, you know, dark outside, and it's probably about, I don't know, maybe 50 degrees, maybe less. Let's see. It is 54. And even on nights where it was 40, it would start up. It would need some choke, but on start, it's a little bit rough because it still has the stock jetting. But I mean, startup is great, even when it's nighttime. It's all great. I mean, RPM wise, I mean, I'm on the freeway and I'm still nervous because of, you know, what it's done before, but I don't have any reason to anymore. It's just, it takes RPMs like no problem. Another weird thing though is that new muffler I put on, it was not gold before, and when I would see it, it would be in the sun, and I'd be like, maybe it's just the reflection of the golden sun on it, you know, but it looks more vibrant gold at night. But anyways, I don't know what happened there. It's just, as it heated up, it turned gold, which, it's like a bronzish, but I think that looks super cool. So, here's what I'm gonna do. Let's give you a little cold start.